I sold to a multi-billion-dollar business and retired at 47 and wasn't good at that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I got lost. I definitely got lost. I was that, and this other business I had turned out to be a mess. It was in a lawsuit. Like, I thought I was going to sell and be like happy and be done and not have any frustrations, and that's not true.
My name's John Strauss. I'm partner and co-founder of New Edge Wealth. I'm here today with Matt Curry, who's a successful entrepreneur who has gone through it all. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So if we could just start out, could you just walk through what's your background and what inspired you to start your first company?
Well, my background is automotive. I've been in the automotive repair aftermarket business for 41 years. Started when I was 15, changing tires and cleaning bathrooms and mopping floors, and worked my way up to management. And when I was 28, I started my first shop with $103,000 on 13 credit cards and a $35,000 loan from my father-in-law, and grew that into 10 stores with 152 employees or so. We're voted the number one auto repair shop in North America by Motor Age Magazine, number one in Northern Virginia by Northern Virginia Magazine. So I had a lot of cool, successes and all that. And I sold to a multi-billion-dollar business and retired at 47 and wasn't good at that. So here I am. I started one store 5 years ago. We have six. We're hopefully opening a seventh store this year. And here we go again. So join the ride.
So let's go back to this first company. 10 stores. You're doing really well. You're getting recognition. Why'd you sell?
Because that was always my goal, was to build 10 stores and sell and get out of business. Because I guess it's kind of a love-hate business. I loved it, but I don't know, I was fed up at the time. And now I realize, I really do enjoy helping people and being involved. And you just can't retire at 47 and sit around and start drinking beer on your dock every day at 3:00. It just, I mean, so, I enjoyed myself. We travel. My wife and I do travel a lot. But we did that beforehand. And quite frankly, I didn't realize how much money I spent. So, so you knew the income.
So when after the transaction did you realize that, you're 47 and this maybe wasn't the path that you needed to go on?
Well, probably after a couple of years. You have the thrill of selling and having that hit your account and all that stuff, and you travel. And I wrote a Wall Street Journal bestseller, and I was gonna maybe do speaking gigs, and I've done some of that in consulting and other things in real estate, of course. But I realized I wasn't that great of a speaker, and I didn't want to travel. I didn't want to be at other people's beck and call. Like, I had to be somewhere, wherever, Phoenix, to speak or whatever it was. And, the thing about being an entrepreneur is not just the money, it's the freedom. Like, I was out my boat all day yesterday. I called in to work a couple times, and, I was out with 8 friends of mine and my wife on my boat, for all day. So it just allows you to do what you want to do when you want to do it. Assuming that you get things kind of automated. We have very specific ways of doing things and policies and procedures and all that. So, if you can duplicate yourself and clone yourself, that's really the ticket to freedom.
So when you were gearing up for the sale, can you walk through, did you go through a process? Did you plan ahead for this sale? Was it abrupt? Talk about the actual transaction.
So the company that bought me, Monroe, they're publicly traded, a $2 billion plus a year company. They approached me when I had 5 stores and offered me, several, low 5 or 7 figures, 8 figures, whatever it is. And I figured if 5 stores was worth 10 million, then 10 stores were worth double that. So my goal was always to build 10 stores and sell and retire. That's what I thought I wanted to do. And this is a time where, things were pretty hectic in our business, and Gina and I were just getting, kind of frustrated. We were maybe burnt out, but it was a little abrupt, and I didn't plan it properly as well as I should have. Everybody that was involved, from the attorneys to even my advisors, coaches, said it was a good idea. Because everybody thought that's what I wanted to do, I guess. And I thought it was a good idea. Um, but I should have taken another year and really thought about it and really decided, I could have put someone else in charge of my company. It was running by itself. I mean, and that's what I should have done. I stepped away for 6 months, see how things go. So that's what I've done now is, we're just in Europe for a month and, wasn't even checking in. I've got people in charge running things, and I decided, I'll give up some of my income or profit to have the freedom and not have the frustration. So basically, I'm hiring people to do things I don't want to do, and I just do what I want to do. You know what I mean? Like I go and work at my stores. I go and visit my stores and talk to my people and talk to my customers, and that's what I enjoy doing. And if there's a customer complaint, I mean, I've got a set saying, if it gets to me, I'm just going to give them their money back. They got to handle it at the store. If they can't handle it, they're going to let their vice president of operations handle it or somebody. And because if I hear about it, I'm just going to assume the customer's right and I don't deal with them. You know what I mean? So I think, you got to have what I should have done. I stepped away for 6 months or a year where I thought about it. Maybe bought some of the real estate, should have done some other deals within it. Maybe not sold some of the real estate I should have, but that I did. So, but everybody at the time, and I've come to think of it, yeah, because the lawyers were getting paid. Why wouldn't they say, go ahead and, paid them $400,000 to sell my business, So why wouldn't they say, yeah, do it, So I think you need to really have a deep down conversation with yourself, your spouse or significant other, some people you really trust, and decide if you want to do it. But what I would say is you got to have a plan. Like, I'm pretty active, and when I'm in town or I want to be engaged in my business, I want to be at the stores. I'm never in my office. So when you don't have that, you have this big hole, and like you don't have a sense of purpose, and you think you know what you're going to do. I had another business at the time that I was concentrating on. It turned out to be, an absolute disaster. The hybrid shop ended up, long story, but getting private equity firm involved, and then my technology partner that we had exclusive rights to went off the reservation. So that was a mess, and I was not happy doing that. I ended up selling that for a loss just because I wasn't happy. And so I thought I had something else, but it turned out my something else wasn't, a unicorn. And so I think you really need to know what you want to do. If you're offered a big figure, that's great. It just means that the other thing I've come to realize is, having all this money is great, but what can you do with it really? I've got a small car collection. I race cars. I mean, I've got a bunch of houses, different places, but there's only so much. What do you need? Yeah, you can give it to your heirs, of course. But I don't know. I mean, I can just keep buying cars and boats and houses, I guess. But the other thing is, I realize, I guess, with this pandemic, you got to enjoy it. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. So, we've been doing that a little more, I think, and I think it's good.
So if you look back at the first company you started and sold and the company you're running now, how would you say your sense of purpose has changed?
I don't think between the two companies, I mean, I've started other companies before Curry's Auto Service and during, and I've started probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 different companies. Some successful, some not. But I don't think the sense of purpose is different, actually. I mean, we were really good at what we did at Curry's Auto Service. And I mean, we're recognized, for it. And we're really good at what we do. So we didn't recreate the wheel. I mean, we just took what we knew is the right way of doing things that we've developed over 40 plus years of doing it. So what we've done is if you bring a car into us for an oil change or a brake check or whatever, we do a full digital inspection with pictures and videos of everything. So when you bring your car in, you'll receive a text or an email, however you want, and you'll get a full digital inspection of everything on your car that we see what's good with it, what's needs to be repaired. So you get to see what our technician sees. It's super cool. Our customers love the technology. So I don't think there's a difference in a sense of purpose. which is always to serve the customer and serve our employees. Like I believe in a upside down pyramid where, me and our vice president of operations and our HR people, I mean, they're there to serve our employees, not vice versa. And our everybody's there to serve our customers. So it's we try and operate at the highest level of exchange as we can, and I think that's a really good sense of purpose. I mean, we're cool, we're honest, we're really good. My guys are the best. We have the best equipment. We have super clean stores, and you know, so we're just continually improving on what we've got.
So when we think about the business, you clearly had a mission. You clearly had a business purpose. You clearly had, you knew where you were in the market. For yourself, when you sold the company, what happened to you and your sense of purpose personally?
Well, at first, like it's exhilaration, right? When you sell your company and get all that money and all that stuff. But at one point, you wake up and you're like, "What the hell am I doing? What am I going to do the rest of my life?" So I mean, you really lose a piece of yourself if you think about it. So I mean, you started this company with however whatever your life savings, or maybe some your life savings and $100,000 in credit cards, and then you build it, and it's like selling a kid, right? So I think once that wears off, you gotta like, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I got lost. I definitely got lost. I was that and this other business I had turned out to be a mess. It was in a lawsuit. I was just irritated. We won the lawsuit, but we didn't get any money out of it. It was ridiculous because I didn't have any money. So between I thought I was gonna sell and be like happy and be done and not have any frustrations, and that's not true. That stuff never goes away. I mean, because especially if you do sell them, and let's say you sell for whatever 10, 20, 30, $50 million, you're always gonna be stressed about where the money is and what's happening to it and all that stuff. And I think I've learned to not be like that. So I think I've learned also I've been more employee focused. This I feel like we pay the most. We have really generous benefits for the automotive industry. So we treat our people well, and I think that's something that maybe we focused on more at Craftsman Auto Care.
So what happened post sale? You had a lot of employees at your previous company. How many employees did you have?
Yeah, we had 152 employees. We're doing about 18 million a year. And they lost every employee with maybe except one in 6 months, 12 months at the most. And drove the business in the ground, did like half the revenue. I mean, they're a publicly traded company, and they're just all about the stock price.
How did that affect you watching that?
Yeah, hated it. I mean, you hear, I was in business for 17 years, and I had, worked on 5,000 cars a month or whatever we did. And, literally tens of thousands of customers. And, you talk to people, and you run into customers, you run into people, and they're like, "Oh my God, I went to the store." And plus my name was still on it for like a year. I mean, they switched them over fairly quickly, but, so it kind of, didn't ding my reputation because I it wasn't mine anymore, but we had a lot of upset customers because of the sale and employees. And yeah. So, the cool part about it is we call it Matt Curry's Craftsman Auto Care because it was called Curry's Auto Service. And we're not allowed to use that, but still getting the Curry name in there. And we have thousands of customers that came back, and 50% of my employees are guys that used to work for us. So, talk about not recreating the wheel. We've like I said, 50% of our staff is former Curry employees, and we have thousands of customers that are just really relieved that we're back in business.
So what was it like, sort of going through the mental process of selling your company, taking a couple of years off, and then getting into the over the motivational hurdle of starting new and fresh? What was that like?
Well, so I was on. The thing is, as a 47-year-old entrepreneur, it's pretty much all you've done your whole life. Yeah, you're always looking for something, right? So you don't know what the next thing is. I mean, we're into real estate as well, and looking at always looking at opportunities, and automotive just comes natural because it's what I've been doing my whole life. And I think mentally, I don't think I was prepared to retire. I was too young. I didn't really have a plan. You need a plan. I mean, you really need to, like I said, step away for 6 months or a year, to think about it, put somebody else in charge and just look at it from, a 30,000 foot view. Um, and I mean, everything that you're doing while you're working or while you're owning your business, you can be doing while you're retired. Okay. So the travel, right? I mean, I race cars, I travel. I mean, we go skiing. We have a place in Colorado. So, and I didn't realize that. So I thought it was one or the other. It doesn't have to be like that. I think really the most important thing, if you're thinking about selling, is number one. I mean, you have somebody you can put in charge. You have a family member or a son or daughter who can run it for you, and you can step back or hire, or either from within or externally, a operations guy that can do what you were doing. You can train them, and then take some time off and really think about what you want to do. Have a good circle of people that you trust, give you the proper advice, and have a plan exactly what you're going to do afterward. I don't think I'll ever retire. I mean, there's no such thing as retirement to me. Now, I tried it. I sucked at it, you know, and you know, I think yeah, I think most entrepreneurs are probably like that. I mean, let's say you sell for $100 million, which isn't what I did. What are you gonna do? You just fly around the world in your private jet and go see a bunch of different cool places, I guess. I don't know. Um, you know, buy a bunch of cool cars and airplanes and houses, sure. But that doesn't satisfy your drive and your need to maybe just help people, like employ people and make the world a better place and give back to communities. And because we serve the communities we service. So, you know, it's just it's you can call it a spiritual God thing. Like you have to serve, or you call it drive or whatever, ambition. I don't know, but I think you always got to have a sense of purpose. You got to figure out what that is. So maybe your sense of purpose is to go on mission trips, and to help people around the world, and that's great. Then that's a valid reason, and that's what you want to do. But you got to have a sense of purpose on what you're going to do and how you're going to do it.
So if you were doing this again from a plan perspective, what are the critical things you think you would have tried to focus on beyond just post-sale purpose? Financially, family, employees. What are the things you would have spent more time on thinking about?
Oh, it's a thought about compensation plan for my employees, at least my key employees. I mean, we did do that somewhat, but when you sell your company, you're selling their careers basically, right? And so you're putting them in the hands of somebody else that you have no control over. So if you can do something to backstop that, if they had to go switch companies, um, financially, I would really interview a bunch of different financial guys, because I had a couple guys. One guy sucked, and the other guy just wasn't a fit. And I'm pretty happy where I am now. But I think family wise, I would sit down and really have a heart to heart with your entire nuclear family, and see if there's anybody who wants to run the business. My son didn't have any interest in it at that time because he wanted to have his own success and do his own thing. And now he's getting his master's degree and he's had his success, and he's interested in taking over the business when I do want to step back, okay, in a couple of years. So, um, I would also see what the family thinks about you selling, right? How's it going to impact your kids? My kids were 13, so my kids were about 18, 17, 18, and my daughter was 14. And so I'm home a lot more. We're traveling a lot more, and she's in school online, so she come with us. But um, anyway, I think especially when you have kids in school, I would never retire again with kids in school, just because I, I think they saw me not spiral out of control, but um, lose, like I said, my sense of purpose, my sense of being. I think, and yeah, I think that I mean, if you have a specific reason that you're going to sell and you want, I mean, that you hate your business or something and you just want to do something else and you're getting a bunch of money and you have a plan, then yeah, so be it. But you got to think about your employees. Like I said, you're basically selling their careers. You got to think about how it's going to affect your family, how it's going to affect your friends. I mean, like your relationships with your friends. Um, I would talk to probably 10 or 20 different financial guys and really interview them and find out who's going to work well for you, who's going to be a good fit, who's not going to crush you in fees and all that stuff. So, I think I'm not a really good attorney, but I think I would have interviewed several other attorneys. I did interview, probably three or four. I did interview three or four financial guys, but I should have dug way deeper and spent a lot more time and all that. But that's not my style necessarily. I like to make decisions and um, you know, but looking back, I mean, for sure mistakes were made, but can't cry over spilled milk. I'm doing all right. So but yeah, there's definitely I think more succession planning should go into it.
So, so if you look back at that transaction and maybe another future one for you, how would you define an ideal transaction?
I mean, an ideal transaction is probably you sell to your son and and he pays you a bunch of money. I don't see an ideal transaction. I mean, I guess if you're happy, you know what you want and you thought about it and you've gone through it and you're getting a bunch of money and you want to just retire, or you have another business that's already succeeding and you want to spend more time in that, or if you have a mission like, I've you want to do angel trips on airplanes, and or I've friends at the Starkey Hearing Foundation where they go all over the world and give free hearing aids to people. It's amazing. Um, so I mean, you got whatever it is. I mean, if you're going to study, but you can do all that when you own your business. I don't think there's an ideal transaction because somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. That's just what it's got to be, right? You're going to win because you get a bunch of money, but you're going to lose this great organization you created. So, and then if you have employees, you've got a bunch of different employees that are involved, and if you give them $10,000 a piece, what does that do? That doesn't change your life. Um, so I mean, like right now, we actually can change people's lives, right? We can make their lives better by paying them more and giving them better benefits, and so there's a lot of reward to what entrepreneurs do. I mean, at some point you gotta have an exit, right? You're 80 or 90 or whatever. Um, I don't know what the perfect transaction is. I thought we had it. I mean, here I throw you my keys and you give me a whole bunch of money. I walk away and ultimate freedom. I mean, I I don't think I didn't have I don't see it. Sorry, I don't know. I just know right now. I mean, there's days like right now I get frustrated. I'm like, I want to sell it, and then and I have those days. Like I have three standing offers. I could walk away again anytime. All right. I mean, all I have to do is make a phone call and I could sell tomorrow. Um, I've got people knocking down my door. But I said this to my wife, Judy. I said, I don't think we can ever sell again. So that's just me though. I mean, it's just one guy.
So what's your plan with this company?
I plan to do exactly what I'm doing now, man. I mean, like I've got really good people in charge of all my stores. I pay them a lot of money. They're happy. I'm happy. My customers are happy. Um, my plan is probably keep stepping back. Like I said, I race cars, and that's 50 days a year that I'm off. doing that stuff. We travel a lot. Um, we have other real estate interests that we have to manage. So I think that what I would like to do is my son's getting his master's and he's having his own successes. But eventually he wants to take it over and show him the ropes. I mean, he knows that he's been in the business, worked through high school and stuff. Um, and have him take it and grow it and run with it. And I'll just do what I want to do, which is being in my stores with my customers and employees, and just having managing it at a very high level, where you know you can do exactly what you want to do. You can have your sense of purpose. You can have your cake and eat it too, right? You can have your sense of purpose. You can have your business. You can have your partners, meeting your employees, um, and you can have it all and not retire. It really depends upon your business. I realize that there's a gazillion different types of businesses, so, um, but mine is, we get 99% of our revenue that day. So we have huge cash flow. Um, our customers are happy. We have, all of our reviews, all of our stores are 4.9 stars, which, we insist upon. Like, if we have, ultimate customer service and ultimate awesome auto repair experience, that's what we're about. And we thrive on that. And that's what gets me up in the morning. So,
So not every entrepreneur is lucky enough to get a check slid across their desk. But for those that are, what is the one piece of advice, if you could only give one, to them if that happens?
go away and think about it. Go in and think about it. I mean, really understand that you're not going to have any income, basically. I mean, you have your 4% or 5%, right? Um, you're basically not going to have any income. And so you're living on a fixed income. So all the expenses that you're spending in your company, which pays for everything, um, you're going to have to pay for it. I mean, your gas. I'd never paid to get my car fixed. I paid $4,000 to get my car fixed like a year and a half after I retired. I was through the freaking roof. Like, what? How can people spend $4,000 to get the car fixed? Anyway, so, and we do it every day, right? So the number one piece of advice is circle yourself with really good people you can trust. Go away so you can make an informed decision. You can get different narratives, different perspectives, and go away for 6 months and really think about it, because you're living on a fixed income for the most part.
Well, Matt, I want to thank you for joining us. I know your employees are fortunate to have you. We're lucky to have had the opportunity to talk with you, and I think a lot of people can learn from the things that you've gone through. So, from all of us who knew, I just want to say thanks for joining us, and this has been extraordinarily helpful.
Awesome. It was fun. Thanks for having me, John.